Welcome to another episode of the Cafecito. I'm your host, Christiana. Remember, the Cafecito is about everyday people doing extraordinary things. I'm so excited to have another guest with us today doing some amazing work in his space. And one of the things that I love is that the Cafecito is very broad. We have guests ranging from all different genres, and today is no different from that. Please help me welcome my guest, Jaymes Hines. James, welcome.
Thank you for the welcome. Hi, Christina,
Hi.
and listeners.
So here's the thing that you're a brave soul. No one has ever taken me up on a Monday invitation to do a couple. So kudos to you for being my 1st Monday, because it's the start of the week, you know. All right, so James, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Okay. Hi, again, my name is Jaymes Hines. I am a co-founder of a tech startup called Beyond ESports. And aside from a founder, I'm also a mentor to other founders in the tech space. And what I do is I focus on today where gaming and esports and education intersect towards the next workforce and the next playground for our entertainment. I'm sure we're going to go over this a little later, but I started out in Southern California as a musician and transitioned into the tech world. And prior to that, long story short, I was born in Kentucky, raised in Indiana, and here I am today in Silicon Valley.
I love that. And that road is never straight, is it?
Wicked as a road.
It is. We met back in the beginning of this year before COVID actually hit. We were actually partnering on a potential event that was happening in Silicon Valley that didn't happen exactly as planned, but yet still was very successful. Got an opportunity to connect with you. But your vast background that you have created for yourself is one that is very intriguing to me. And so I want to talk a little bit about, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything that you built, talk to me about how did you get to this place of being a founder, being in the EA sport space? What got you to this?
Okay, well, I've been on the entrepreneurial journey and the tech entrepreneurial journey for quite a while. The normal quasi-tech story, dropped out of college. Don't do that. Please don't tell your kids to do that, to pursue music. So I was a musician. Well, I was a college student, but I grew up in Gary, Indiana, where every home of the Jacksons and other talents.
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody there, we had, the singing groups or the playing groups, all that stuff.
That kind of move right there.
Yeah, you're going to see stuff, dancing machine. I'm starting to date myself, but hey, it's the Jacksons. So long story short, but Indiana's a very musical as well as entrepreneurial communities, and particularly Gary. And at the time, I was going to concerts quite a lot, and I was getting backstage, just had early on, don't even know why long. And one of the times that I was going backstage, I think I was at a Prince or a Cameo concert. And one of the musicians had told me, hey, you have to be where music happens. You have to be where things happen if you want to be there. If you want to be a musician, you need to be in New York or LA, because those were the two music capitals for recording performance at the time. And literally, I flipped the coin and ended up in LA. Yes. Hey, I wasn't a funny phenom that, just my ability to say you need to be there. I just know that my love for performing, my love for learning the craft, my love for being around other great. I knew that I was going to put myself on this journey. So once I came to Los Angeles and hooked up with some friends who had been prior in the entertainment industry as well, so if they graduated and got their degree before coming out here, did the couch surfing and found out along the way that I had a love for learning. So I was learning synthesizers and drum machines and sound and sequencing as it came out, which are technology in itself. So I was learning about computer-based programming, and all that led to the .com world, which came right after. So I came here in the 83. Came to Southern California, Los Angeles, Hollywood, spent some years learning the industry as it was today, and did some amazing fun stuff. Working on projects with like anything from the Motown 25th. Those stories could be hilarious, but the statute of limitation is not passed.
I was gonna say, so we should be expecting a book at this point.
Yeah, number 3. Yes. But how I got into the tech world is while I was doing the music world, I got involved in video games. And there was this amazing video game project back in the early pre.com where every company wanted to be a tech company. So every music company had a music division. Motown Interactive, Warner Interactive, blah, blah. And I was working for a European company to create something called the Motown game, which the whole idea was Motown is known all around the world. Everybody, even China, knows about Motown. Yeah. And video games, music-driven video games, back this is the 80s, had potential to be accessible because people understand music, and we were going to scope out music history in the Motown, and they fight against robots and save the world, or the world would end. And at the end of the day, but unfortunately, it didn't happen along that time for a variety of reasons. Money wasn't the reason, though. It was hilarious. And I met godfather of entertainment industry, Clarence Avant and others. So let me not meander down that way. But along that way, as we were developing video games, and video games at that time had a certain look and feel, a friend of mine had taken me to a side project. I went to a house in the hills, and I saw a bunch of kids working on art and animation that looked very similar to what we did for the video game, except they pushed a button and it went out to the world. They didn't have to press a gold disc and then replicate that disc, distribute it to multiple stores, get paper end caps and all this stuff. And it was like, no, you push play, you push launch, and it's available on the web, which had just become consumer friendly at that time. And you're seen in millions around the world. So I gave up everything I'm doing, and I taught myself a little HTML, and I started creating a boutique web studio by partnering with great people who did amazing art, and we contracted and we did a lot of work. We did everything from, HBO was a great client, so I worked on maybe 3 Spike Lee projects, like 4 Little Girls, the documentary, built the website, did the live streaming, partnered. And I learned a lot of negotiating and business development just by pursuing contracts and pursuing the work and negotiating with the talent to get the stuff done. Because talent is always talent. They got ideas like, could we say it this way? No, do it this way. You know, even programmers are just like artists, like they're like actors. They all have an opinion.
Oh yeah.
And they have talent. That's why they're sitting in the room. But there is a plan, and we try to neg at it. And all of that led me to realizing that the success or the lack of success that I was achieving was, while we did great work and we went from 40,000 to 400,000 per project, I didn't understand that people who were making 400 to $1 million a project, that wasn't their goal. Their goal was to go public and other kind of liquid events, which wasn't the language that I knew about and didn't understand at that time. So I didn't understand the business of being in business. I understood the business of selling and making stuff, but I didn't understand the business of creating success, because selling
separate things.
Yeah, they are. You could sell something that's hot for a moment, then somebody else sells it down the street at just as better or a lower price. And business is the notion of generating, first off, wealth for the providers who are backing the business. You know, they want their money back plus. It's generating ongoing reoccurring revenue that allows for the employment of the people that are helping build the process. So long story short, I jumped from the .com world and video game world to the .com world to moving to Northern California. And a friend of mine has an amazing co-working space in the heart of San Francisco called Citizen Space. And he's an amazing, brilliant person. I'm not going to do any live with him. I'm never saying his name. His name's Toby Morney. He is one of the, he is both the Steve Jobs and Steve Jobs, and who's that heart, and Henry Ford, and who's somebody who's really terrible, and Carnegie at the same time. This brother has it all. You got to have it all. Wow. But he was younger than me, and he's brilliant. And his mind for things just helped me see things differently. So when I worked ran his co-working space, which was 24/7, you have a key card, there was no going home, had an apartment in the place and then hotel down the street. And just the amount of projects that were bubbling up at that time allowed, it was a university in itself, because you're constantly looking at business models and technology and innovators and business deals, and you're getting a sense of what's happening and why that there's rapid growth in this part of the market versus in the equally known market down the street called Southern California and other innovation hubs around the world. And it came to mind that it really wasn't the hardware, because everybody had the same Mac or PC. It wasn't the software, because everybody had access to the same. And capital is relative, meaning the startup capital that's required in any market. It's, there are wealthy people who can afford it. It's really that there are people who invest in high growth, high net worth individuals invest in high growth companies because they want to help facilitate a high return. That is the real, and that's not what's practiced in the West, but which should be, and I think is starting to be practiced, that you can build a company from day one with the notion of creating a great product service, but with high returns for the investors or the backers. And that's, let me stop there for a minute.
I was about to say, so I mean, that I think is a really pivotal statement that I think needs to be expanded on, because I think that's where most don't know how. They don't know the how of that. So how would you articulate to begin for someone watching this that is a young founder in the early stage, moving to moving out of that to the next growth phase? How would you articulate with them to start that process?
Okay, I think the process is to start, the how is to understand the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people doing this? How to align with people who want to back you, how to align with people who want to buy your product, how to align with people who want to work with you. They all have different motivations. A person who wants to work with you is motivated because it's a promising area that they think is exciting. They like the opportunity. If you're a startup, they don't mind sacrificing consistent income for the opportunity for a way to drive what they do, and also the potential of a larger exit, because that's how they're being compensated, with stock versus a industry standard as far as pay. And the consumer, you're aligning because you are fulfilling a gap or need that they've expressed, like that you've observed and you modeled with them, like it should be faster, it should be bigger, it should be whatever it needs to. Your own research is because you're kicking somebody else's butt whose product is already out there, so you're aligned with their need, and you're aligned with the investors who come in at different stages. Investors are not loan officers. They're not looking at, hey, here's a loan, pay it back plus interest. They are people who literally are looking at the opportunity before you came in the door and after you leave the door, and trying to make a decision of which of the three do they take. Do they take the person who came before you? Do they look to take yours? Or do they take the person who came after you? And that's based on the presentation saying who's going to potentially create the most success. It's potential.
Wow. I think that is something that I definitely will make sure is extracted and put out for folks watching this to take away and apply. Talk to me a little bit about how you've been able to successfully transition. I mean, you've done so much in your career, but you've always seemed to either be at the head of the curve or just before, or the wave, or the boom, or right in the midst of it. And right now what we see is a lot of funding, a lot of growth happening in the gaming industry. And obviously this has been happening for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen over COVID from folks who have a lot of stake in this space talk
Mm-hmm.
intentionally about how they're pivoting and re-strategizing so that they can take advantage of the growth that's happening. Can you talk to us a little bit about like this gaming space and where you see it going?
Oh, okay. So the gaming space to me is just like the traditional sports in space, in that gaming is a form of entertainment. Sports is an entertainment. Sports has, if I has taken us on a journey of sports talent, which has been identified pretty early on. There's no such thing as a high school sports phenom. They were a middle school sports phenom, and they were probably identified as a junior high, where their parents decided to back them. Okay, we're going to take you to boot camps. We're going to allow for summer lessons, and we're going to start backing you. So we're going to map out the strategy, because we're not a terribly wealthy family. We're going to map out the strategy, how we get you from, we all discovered your passion, and we're going to get you from Pee Wee League to Pop Warner to AAU to high school, to so you can get the awareness of both professional and collegiate interests,
Mhm.
so that one or two may make you an offer in your college years. That means we not only mean to make sure that you are trained and skilled and on winning teams, but also that you're healthy and that your academic prowess is there. Now, academically, unfortunately, that's been a lacking for a while. With kids in different sports have skated academically, because unfortunately the schools were willing to want their prowess on the court and didn't care if they participated well on in the classroom, and we've seen the outcome of that. We have decades of data that talks about how football, baseball, basketball, track, baseball, and other sports, to different degrees, have not serviced these students who, through their proudness of their parents and through their own perseverance, put themselves to be at elite athlete operating status.
Absolutely.
Imagine esports is the same trajectory. Early on, you discover you're good at a particular game, and this game has tournaments, and you could enter these tournaments and you could win, and you could join multiple person teams. And now in today's world, you can get a college scholarship which will allow you to play in the collegiate league, and you may get a pro offer. You still have to pay attention to the academic and the other lifestyle things, which are important, because in today's world, in 2020, we look back at the 20, 30, 40-year history of collegiate athletes and say, we're not going to make the same mistakes, because the schools have a greater lens with that. What's just happened, the blue, when the parents got slapped on the wrist and caught for getting their kids into schools and academic.
For the
Varsity Blues.
yes.
Okay, so we've got Varsity Blues is just one example of different kinds of situations where what used to take place can't take place, because pre-COVID, all the lens had been on, bad behavior that resulted in really bad outcome from that student athlete. And on the other side, and COVID just, so what's happening is these schools were offering these esports scholarships. They wanted an amazing student athlete. So we're getting the message out that students need to, and their parents supported need to realize, hey, there's a career and an academic opportunity that didn't exist prior, but you still have to pay attention to both sides, or you won't get that opportunity.
So let me stop you right there before
Okay.
we continue, because you're speaking. I mean, again, I don't know. I am, of course, naive to the vastness of esports and how it's growing. But the little that I do know is that it's a billion-dollar business going into trillion.
Well, here's the thing is, let's separate esports from gaming. Esports today is a billion-dollar industry. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Video gaming industry is over $160 billion. It earns greater revenues than professional sports and cinema.
Okay, esports, gaming, but the where I'm going with this is, thank you for that distinction, because I definitely need it. But where I'm going with this is, you are taking it and mirroring it against how collegiate sports and other forms of athleticism in secondary education have been used
As a talent pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so you're saying the same application applies to this world, except now that we're looking at this world in that respect, we need to take lessons learned and arm our, not just our students, but our parents with the knowledge necessary to protect students, to protect their academic, but also to help parents understand the monetization of it.
Yeah, exactly. The monetization here is greater than in traditional sports. And the traditional sports, until you get that inflection point of you got a pro offer, you're not monetizing your own self. Even though where in esports, you literally could be earning influencer fees or on a team that's winning tournaments and earning purse fees from 13 on up. So that's a totally different world. You're a taxpayer. Your son or daughter winning playing on an esports team is a taxpayer, but they're a revenue earner.
At like 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, because the whole notion of it is, well, what's school about? So to get you ready for the workforce in the world. Okay, well, cool. What's esports about? Same thing. What is professional sports about? Sports is a gateway to professional career. Esports is a gateway to professional career. That's why the name of our company is called Beyond ESports, because we recognize what happens next. What is beyond your play days? What happens? And also during your play days, what are the opportunities that you should be aware of that you may be invisible to you if you don't have the right team or awareness around you?
So I want to actually talk a little bit about this because you've actually created a program or an e-learning. Talk a little bit about
what it is. So let me go back to what we are. We're a venture studio. A venture studio is a place that actually builds business ideas versus a accelerator, which accelerates some other one's idea, or we're not an incubator, which incubates the idea. We don't incubate, we do not accelerate, we actually deliver. And because over the years I've been in the accelerator world, which is, I believe is still important, and watching the world of incubation, which is important, we looked at another tack. We looked at all the relationships that we have and all the ideas and insights we have to say, how can we bring products to market quicker and better, faster? And that is by internally building out our own incubating acceleration process for things that we believe that there's a market for. There's a consumer market or there's a B2B market. The consumer market is providing parents and student athletes in lower grades with the tools they need to make better decisions about pursuing a gaming career or a esports career, which actually is really a tech career, because the esports and gaming are as much as in technology as they are in media and entertainment. It is a form of entertainment. You consume it, people sit back and cheer, but you could also branch off and I want to make graphics, I want to make games, I want to market, I want to be an influencer. No different than a traditional athlete can say, I'd like to go on and get a career in physical therapy or in mental therapy, or I'll be a marketer. Beyond the sport is critical, and you identify those loves and those interests and those passions and those opportunities early on, and you start aligning and creating your own journey and roadmap. So I know this is a little different than the core question you asked, but I appreciate you allowing me to take you on this journey, because it is about how to introduce people to take their own journey and to leverage the information, knowledge, tools, and people that are out there that want to help with people who are following passions that match their own.
Right. So then if I'm looking at how it all would work, say I'm a parent, right? And I have a child that has a love of gaming, and they spend X number of hours and they're very popular. They have a large following, and they're being approached. So I would reach out to your company. Like, how would that process work?
Okay, so we're making tools and processes that point you to our own products, but also to other people's products. So let me frame it this way: we're just now creating our own consumer facing. We're still industry facing, meaning the industries are still brand new. They're still growing. So we're creating partnerships with Reliance. For example, are you familiar? Your audience may or may not be aware of something called the HBCU Esports League.
Actually, I just found out about that a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's only a couple of weeks old, or not that old. It's not. So understand this: the HBC schools that are participating have recognized that their students, just like any other college-age students, are fans of esports, and esports is a growing engagement opportunity for the students, just like track, field, and football, except in this COVID environment, it's the only sports that actually is happening. There is no live, there will be no, the other live sports are challenged to actually take place. And also, just like other sports which have broadcast rights, which earn monies, which have merchandise rights, which have tournaments. Esports supports all those things. So parents of kids who are playing games that have tournaments, that have career opportunities, it is important to provide them with a particularly Black and brown students who may not, whose school may not have opened these doors years ago. They're open now. It's important to help parents realize that their kids could get that partial or full scholarship that allows for them to have a career or enter the college market no different than if they would have got a track field, sports, or even academic scholarship. And because once a student finds their passion, the likelihood of them dropping out academically diminishes, in that most students who do finish their high school years are student athletes because they've already figured out their passion that allows them to show up, practice. Not only practice is in place, but also realize if they don't feel their academic obligations, they will be dropped from the sport. Esports are similar. So this is just another very broad and long door that just opened up to allow even more students at home, more high schoolers, more junior highs, to find a carrot that will enable them to stay throughout their career, their education career. Because without that carrot, school for a lot of students doesn't stick. They're not willing to participate because for those who found their academic carrot, great. For those who found their sports carrot, awesome. Esports just opens up another range of road, a fork in the road.
I've been dabbling in this space for a while just to try to wrap my head around how far-reaching this can be. So any genre can be gamified? I mean,
well, here's the thing. Yes, there's casual and shoot up and not shoot up. So here's critical. Just like all sports are not equal, all esports are not equal. In that the money sports that run college are basketball and football. For most, not all. I mean, swimming is important, track and field is important, but the ones that offer the biggest broadcast, like for example, the University of Utah, and I hope I'm quoting correctly, they had to cancel their football season this year. The University of Utah is losing $100 million in broadcast rights just for 1 year. It's a college football team. I did not ticket sales, not merchandise sales, just broadcast rights, because they have such a winning team that the broadcasters paid hundreds of millions, $100 million cumulatively to broadcast. Esports is similar. Esports broadcast rights are going to mirror traditional sports rights. Esports ticket rights, merch rights, except the difference as this rolls out, these student athletes, under the tutelage of their parents, because they're still because these student athletes esports athletes don't start it in college, they also can be in high school. They're under the household of their parents. So these offers of influence contracts and earning contracts will have to go through their parents, because these are still minors. So parents,
and that's where they're going to need help because they don't know.
And just like there are books on how to be a showbiz parent and how to be a sports parent, there needs to be books on how to be an esports parent.
And that's where you all come in.
Yeah, because a book is a tool, it's a resource. Our goal is to put tools and resources, both things you read, both things you view, like video, both applications you could use that take you to different, like here's a listing of all the colleges that are offering esports scholarships. But back to your question, games. There are a handful of games, which is not hard to find, that most tournaments are held. So whether it's League of Legends or Player Battleground Unknown, or you could Google, or your child will know what are the most games that have the most tournaments that are winning, that people are playing competitive. So while you can play in any competition of any type of esports, the winning ones are known, and more likely most kids who are trying to pursue a career are playing the ones, whether it's PC, mobile, or console. Leading is PC, because PC has a faster reaction time, is a lot more, but economically it's out of the realm of most people. So people who play PC games.
When you say PC, you're talking about gaming on your computer.
Gaming strictly on your computer, and when I say PC, I mean IBM, not Mac. Most gaming takes place on something that runs on a Windows environment versus a Mac OS. and that can harden. So after the PC, then you have consoles, which,
Right.
the main ones,
Gotta plug into
Xbox,
your TV.
PlayStation.
Yeah, it's this
Yeah.
chunk.
So
I
we're seeing
have.
so there's the console wars, the PC wars, and you have the mobile. If I had to be a betting person, I think the mobile is going to win
I could see that too.
because why? Oh, really? What were your thoughts? Why would you think?
I mean, my first go-to is because I take this everywhere I go. I'm not limited by this at all,
Yep.
but my PC is clunky. I may not be able to fit it in, whatever, right? The console, same thing, right? But this, it can go
Mhm.
anywhere.
I
That's
agreed.
why.
And
Am
there
I
are
onto
billions
something?
of, you're onto something. Plus, there's already billions of these units deployed. They have an immense processing power now. The processing power is not equal to a PC, but it doesn't need to be. You can plug it into the cloud, and as long as you got great internet bandwidth, you can play competitive games. So there are billions of people who play this. So mobile gaming is rising against PC gaming and console gaming. Console gaming is like every year, hey mom, buy me a new PlayStation, or dad, buy me a new PlayStation or Xbox, and they're like, no, are you crazy? That stuff costs a lot of money. Did we just get you one last year? Because so the hardware wars are really pointing to that the mobile devices will possibly win the gaming of esports, because it is there are more devices, and you can invite more people who can participate. And the games are agnostic right now. Games are set up where the same game you play on the PC, you play on the console, you can play on your mobile, and you can interact where it doesn't matter where you're coming in from. So we're seeing more of this cross-reality type of world coming to life.
I mean, everything you're saying is hitting home for me. I mean, like, I have grown adult friends and families, even some of my
Mm-hmm.
ex-boyfriends have been big gamers, but I also see like little people, like 2, 3, 4-year-olders, like into their little gaming programming. And so, I mean, that's why I was talking about, can any genre be gamified? Because,
Oh yeah.
right now I have my nieces and nephews who are in preschool and elementary school, gamified their education all the
Oh yeah.
way to something, in the, I went, God, this was about 3 years ago now, but I went to we had e-learning that we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
The actual training was gamified. And
Mm-hmm.
they had 100% engagement. Everybody complete, and we're talking about a company that had over 5,000 employees.
Oh yeah.
That was the first time they had 100%
Participate.
participation,
Mm-hmm.
but completion,
Mm-hmm.
because it was fun. We
Mm-hmm.
were all entertained, and not everybody. I mean, I don't sit and play games at home like that,
Yeah.
but it was engaging. And
You're
so
right. Mm-hmm.
that's, I want to kind of get into that, something that is going to cross.
Yeah, the gamification of the economy is working. Like, there's a book that came out years ago. It's called "Reality is Broken: How Video Games
I'm gonna
Will
take that
Change the World."
note. I'm listening to you, but I'm gonna write that down. You said
Yeah,
wait, what is it
no,
called?
it's called "Reality is Broken"
Reality.
by Jane Goodall, I think.
Okay.
And in the subtitle is "How Video Games Will Change the World." Gamification. So let's separate gamification from competitive video games. Gamification is just what you just said. It is how using game mechanics of leveling up and other type of things to engage, to train, to teach, and learn. That's growing. I was in Kentucky a couple of years ago at the Kentucky Derby, and I'm watching one of these activities, on the river, and I'm looking at one of the policemen who's riding the patrol boats. And instead of having a steering wheel like Gilligan's Island, and he's sitting on his steering wheel was a joystick, was sort of like a joy controller. So gamification has gotten even in the design of hardware and other kinds of utility devices, where versus, if you watch most boating shows, you'll see people with steering wheel. But if you watch, and if you watch any action adventure with what the military is doing, it's all gamified gear that looks like it came out of sci-fi.
How do we stay ahead? I mean, right now, obviously We the Plug, who sponsors the Cafecito series, works with founders, early stage founders, and
Mm-hmm.
they're coming up with all kinds of innovative ideas, and taking, them to scale. What kind of conversations would you start having with companies, with founders who are in that early stage building out? What would you have them keep in mind as they're building their company in relations to this world, this gaming world?
Well, there's a lot of different parts of our society in this world that are all needed to make it run, from the education to the healthcare, the transportation, and all kind of stuff. For those who are interested in game, so let's just say that you're talking to game founders, because I think it's fair to go to game people and try to help them versus to go to non-game people or industries that may not rely heavily on game mechanics to try to get to them to see a window that's not there yet. So if you're going to go to those who are game people, they've already have said they're interested. The goal is to figure out how to help them do better. It's like if somebody says, hey, I've got a better game than this game or I've gotten a better way of using a game idea, like a hardware. So first off, every idea is better than what's already in existence. It has to be better than the incumbent. Whenever you create something, you're stealing traffic or something else. You're on the phone, you're drinking tea with ginger.
Yes.
There's a certain tea that you drink versus other tea that you decided not to drink.
This is so true.
Okay, so you made a choice because they did something either on the taste, the packaging, the branding, something that made you identify, say, I'm a fan of this versus that. So there is the incumbent. So when somebody says, I got a cool startup that I'm in the gaming world, how are you better than the incumbent? Because the biggest thing that we hear from most founders when you ask this simple question, and I saw it in one of your applications for a thing we talked about, you say, who is your competitor? And most of them, I have none. And you just want to quit, please don't do that. Don't say, because if you have, then you have no market. The market doesn't exist, or the market is so new that you'd have to come a ton of people just to make people feel that it's important enough for them to want to spend money to keep it going. So when people do research on who your market is and how you are better, and define how you're better than price alone cannot be sustained, because if your competitor is huge and you beat them on price, they'll just undercut you on price.
Amazon.
Yep. So there has to be some other reasons why your product stands out, or your service in the game world. There's going to be a constant rotation of games. Even though certain games have stayed around for 10 years, there's always need for more new games. So how is your new game better than other games that are coming up? How's your card game or your whatever type of game? Let's look at an industry. For example, my understanding or my thoughts are that video game competition will be part of the Olympics. I'm betting it won't be shoot 'em up. So what kind of sports games that are competitive, that are team or individual focus, could be in the Olympics, which the U.S. will host in 2028, I think it is, or 2030. I'm not sure right now. So there's plenty of opportunities to come up with a better. So the whole idea is founder, how is your product better? How are you making the customer, the consumer, the buying customer aware of it? And how are you generating reoccurring, ongoing revenue that will sustain you as you deliver? What is your plan? How have you tested against this plan? And the reason you're asking for money because you want to scale it. Money is to scale. I mean, you need early stage money. These days, things are, you got low code to no code, meaning very little code you can use, because there's what you get, WYSIWYG type of stuff, or no code. So there are different ways to prototype. Most people should have within their own means the ability to prototype, whether it's a paper prototype, you write it out and use art to show you go from screen to screen to screen, or you use a low code method, or you coded maybe a prototype. You should put that in front of sampling with customers and get feedback, and then come up with a next version, because it can look beautiful to you, but until the customer says, I will pay for it or I will subscribe it, you don't really have a product that a customer you can build a business on.
Oh, wow, that's very great advice. Jaymes, listen, there's so many notes that I have been mentally taking from this, but thank goodness I've also recorded this because I definitely need to make sure that I am bulleting out, shared so many nuggets today. Um, Tell the people where they can find you on social media.
LinkedIn is probably my best resource. My name is spelled Jaymes, Jaymes, Hines, Hines. So linkedin.com/in/Jaymes Hines. I say that enough that I know it by heart. Other than that, I really, I think one of the things that led to this conversation here, you and I got to a great conversation about mentorship, and I just want to speak a little to that. I'm a big fan of that, and that is the biggest thing besides advice, besides consulting, besides contract services that you need to buy for people. Mentoring is a big part of, I believe, success. There are a lot of mentoring orgs out there that can help with people figuring out their journey. And plus, here's the thing about competitors. If you look at your competitors and just look at their about page and their press releases, you can figure out their journey. They're telling you, we launched here, we had this many people here. You go look at their about page. What is their current makeup? People who are staffed, and go look at an early stage company who's like you and look at their staffing, and then look at the market leader who's maybe 5 or 10 years ahead of you as in life existing, and look at their staffing and look at the differences. People say they have a hard time figuring out how to budget. Once you understand the staff makeup, you can go to a resource like Glassdoor or other kind of recruiting and look at what you should pay people. Coming in with a budget is research, and you can only research competitors. If you believe you have no competitors, you will not have the numbers you need to build anything. If you understand you have competitors and you can build something better, you use your competitors as a means to establish your own benchmarks. And I think it make an investor feel more secure, or a potential team member more secure than you've done some research.
No, everything you're saying is spot on, especially I think doing research. And even when we talk about mentorship and coaching, I think the most important pieces to it is coming with something when you're coming to that mentor, to show what you have done. Even if you're in the ideation stage, there's still opportunity to come with some work that you have produced to show your investment. I mean, because if you haven't invested yourself through your time, then it's like, what is it that you want me to do if you yourself have not? Because it's not hard, right? I mean, we're not talking about back in the day when you had to go to the library to get access to information. Again, it's right here at our hand. So it doesn't, we're already on it. So again, it's that preparation.
When I was doing my technical journey, I was in Southern California. I had to buy magazines all the time that were printed out of Northern California that barely covered the subject because it was that new. But I like your analogies. Come prepared. It's like, oh, I want to play basketball. Well, go practice dribbling. If you show up and say, I want to play a basketball, but I don't want to dribble, then you're not ready. You're not serious, let alone not ready.
Right.
Serious is like, go do the work and present yourself ready to be interviewed, so that you can so they can see that, okay, you're ready for our help. Because there's all kind of super early and growth, all kind of help at different levels, but be clear where you're at. And not everybody operates in everything. Not everybody operates in super early. Not everybody operates in growth. And you got to figure out where you stand. But I'm going to go back to that basketball thing for a moment. You want to do a certain sport and you can't do the basics, then you need to go to a school for the basics. You need to get coached or teach yourself the basics on how to dribble, how to hit the tennis ball, how to catch, how to build a prototype, how to build a pitch deck. All of these things you can query and for free pull up a video or a picture-based resource on how to emulate. My basic word is CASE, copy and steal everything.
Oh yes,
I made you laugh. Yes. It's like every sports person, every musician, we all have a person or persons that we admired who did these things, and we emulate those skills. We're copying and stealing what we approximate are their skills. And then and that also gives us our knowledge base increases, both our technical facilities and our understanding of different words that make up that world. When you come to then a coach or a mentor or a recruiter or a hirer or a potential partner, they will see those skills, they will see that passion and interest, and they will build upon that. They will make their decisions on that. But just to say, I want to show up and I don't have anything to bring to the table, I'm not ready. It's like, yeah, you're not ready.
Right, right. Need to go get ready. And
you can in this world.
Man, I want so much to continue talking, but we're at time right now.
Okay.
I know you have other stuff you have to do, but I really would like to, at some point, circle back around and have, I think, a more Q&A opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that would be really helpful because, again, there is a lot that you shared today that not only will benefit those in the gaming industry, obviously, but those just in the early stage startup space, your wisdom in how to approach negotiation. I mean, again, you talked about so many different things that I think requires getting folks in front of you to really pick your brain and break it down.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Read the blog. I'm a big fan. You, Luis, and the rest. It's like, so the idea that we are virtual doesn't mean that we actually can make out more time to actually explore these things and allow other people to experience what we're exploring, so we could do what we want to do, which create greater impact, create more wealth. Impact is important. Wealth generation is important, and scaling is important. We can do those things.
And that starts with knowledge. I mean, we are to run to the monetization of the currency, cash currency. But it starts with knowledge. That's currency. That's wealth.
Yep.
I mean,
that's why my title, I found the CEO Thought Capital. I realize that's the biggest capital I bring to the table, how I think, how I.
Did you coin that, Thought Capital? Because
got the trademark on it. Thought Capital Ventures. I actually came up with that.
Jaymes Hines once said, Thought Capital. That's it. Thought Capital.
I came up with it maybe 10, 15 years ago, but I didn't start officially using it till maybe 3-5 years ago. But yeah.
So when I use it, I'm gonna say the great Jaymes Hines said.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go on with my thought that I'll be sharing.
But that's the bit. Yeah. Yeah, we're in the knowledge economy. Thoughts are everything. Good, great thoughts, insight. Yeah, it is the currency of the realm.
Make or break us. Yes.
Yeah.
James. All right. Well, again, you can find James on LinkedIn, like you said, under James with a Y. Don't just leave out the Y, put MES. You will not find him. I guarantee you. Put the Y in there. And also, we got to get you on Read the Plug membership page. For there.
Awesome.
Once he gets on there, you guys can find him on there too, and more about that Q&A that I was talking about setting up, because we have some really cool things that we're rolling out of there. So thank you all again for tuning in to another episode of the Cafecito. We will see you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day. Thank you.